Peace be unto thee. I am the Elohim of peace. Your mighty I am presence, blessed ones, is the hub of your being. You have a saying of old upon this planet concerning the days when Rome ruled the world, that all roads lead to Rome. I say to you that cosmically speaking, now, in the past and forever, all roads lead to the great central hub of your own mighty I am God presence, and you may rejoice forever in this wondrous fact. Simple though it be, like the mind of a child, uncomplicated by the more perplexing questions of adulthood, you stand entering into the kingdom of God in its basic, pure sense by the realization as a child in the lap of its mother that you are forever and forever and forever the fullness of your own mighty I am God presence in action. There is no other power that can act. Let the wind blow, let the waters flow, let the fire burn and blaze, let the air currents raise. Your I am presence is master of the four elements. And precious ones, do you know the cosmic historical mode of being is that of a child on bended knee, kneeling at eventide, as the sun has set and the stars have appeared in the firmament, to commune in simplicity with the sweet Father's love above, and to feel the calm knowing peace of a child that is unaffrighted and unafraid. This peace which you received in little portions, given to you by the godly mothers that have lived upon this planet, ought to be shielded and placed among your most treasured possessions. You have lockets with a little wisp of hair, preserved mementos of past times. You have preserved sentimental gifts from the near present. None of these are usually more than a decade or a half a century old at the most. Your I am presence brings you the treasures of infinity, all the dim and bright roads of past history, the interwoven patterns of happiness and unhappiness, of peril and rapture, are entwined with the now and the forever. And yet, to realize the fullness of peace, infinite peace, mankind must surrender every unrighteous act and thought to God for transmutation, that the molding of the divine character may be accomplished as the greatest artifact for peace that mankind could ever find in all of their previous history. Wheresoever individuals have treasured their divinity, they have treasured the power of happiness and love. When love has flown out the window, precious ones, your happiness goes with it. To turn one's attention upon the environs of self is well, when it is done for corrective interior service. But to turn one's attention upon self and the demands of outer world service and the requirements of that service, to criticize one's fellow men because they have not behaved as you would have them to do, to seek to control their minds when the holy flame of freedom would burn every bond, is an error which will surely bring you yourself into the self-same bondage you would impose. Therefore, in the holy name of peace, the peace of the ascended Jesus Christ, I say unto you all, surrender your own little, puny, pitiful wills, for I am a being of some stature, I am a being of some fervor, and I think I can muster also the power of the first ray, and utilize that in establishing, if necessary, fiats of peace by divine decree and the power of God's holy will. Some individuals have thought of me, because I am the Elohim of peace, as though I were in some way a very fragile and tender and beautiful manifestation, incapable of bringing to bear the great power of cosmic pressures for and on behalf of the Godhead and the luster of his glorious plan for the freedom of man. But I would like today to disillusion you concerning that fact, for I am come this day with great power and majesty, the majesty and the power of the countenance of peace itself. Your faces ought to reflect the glow in all of its wondrous simplicity and subtle magnification of the countenance and face of God, of the face of true cosmic peace. For I am releasing to you today not the substance of material success alone, but the secret ray of beloved mighty cosmos, which abides within the temple of peace most of the time, and is one of the tremendous attributes of God's own being. You ought then to bow the knee within your heart and to recognize the power of peace to flood your being day or night, at any hour when you feel moments of separation from others because you are apart and are not doing just that which you would like to do. You must recognize that patience is a virtue which will enable you to possess your souls with a great soul knowing that will strip all outer activities of their banal appearance, and will show you that in playing in the great cosmic drama of life, your ultimate destiny is assured and can never be taken from you. You have a birthright immortal. You have the substance of the Most High God abiding within the threefold flame within, and you have the master key that leads to contact with every ascended being and cosmic being, every archangel, every angel, the seven mighty Elohim and our divine complements. You have the key to heaven itself locked right within your own heart's treasures. When you invoke, precious ones, these powers into full-blown manifestation, it will bring about a change in your concepts. It will bring about a change in your consciousness. And I think also it will bring a change in your conscience. To have a good conscience is to keep the peace with God. For when the conscience of mankind is troubled, it is not because the deity or the Godhead desires it, but it is because the very soul of man desires to remove the impediments to his own contact with his divine presence. It is from your octave, precious ones, that the intrusion of pain and happiness arises, and it is from the octaves of light that the power to dissipate these shadows and shadowed substance comes into manifestation. The power and flow of infinite peace is your God mastery, and you ought to have that mastery now and forever. You ought to place it upon your brow. You ought to place it upon your heart. You ought to place it upon your very being itself. You ought to be girded round about with a belt of interior and exterior peace. You ought to receive peace from God by divine decree, by your own demand, and by your own demand you ought to give peace unto others. This is the great service of many, and it is also the service of your own beloved Master Jesus, for he so often used this great salutation of honor to my name. Peace be unto you. Fear not, little flock. Be of good cheer. It is I. And so, precious ones, as I come to you today, it is to draw you very close to the heart of God and his infinite peace. It is to call to your attention that you are a part of this magnificent cosmic drama that comes from the very hub of your being and expands out into the exterior world, making you a part of all that transpires in the outer world, identifying you with outer conditions and with inner conditions as well, and giving you the power to have the victory over all outer conditions. Can you consider, precious ones, that if misery and unhappiness, if suffering were occurring somewhere in your physical body, that you in your minds and brains would not be aware of it? I call to your attention, precious ones, that if you have a sore, a boil upon your feet, or upon your hands, or your shoulders, or upon your neck, does not every part of the physical body register that this condition is manifesting? Do you think that the cosmos is different? When any part of life is in distress and there is a lack of peace manifesting anywhere, does it not then produce a subtle form of discomfort to the entire cosmos? And would it not be most desirable to see all these conditions of strife upon this planet today cleaned up, so that men could live in the age-old dream of peace and happiness? I do not have to go very far to find material this day to draw from, to remind you of the feelings of man concerning the warfares that have occupied the minds of mankind for so long. For I know that in this room there are many noble souls who have often made intercession to the Godhead because of the thrust of iniquity practiced by mankind in the marts of the world, whereby they know not what they seek, nor do they know what they do. For they crucify Christ the flesh, afresh, precious ones, with every single solitary manifestation of wrong against their brother. Every life that is taken from the screen of life by the acts of murder, which are practiced in the name of warfare, bring distress, remindful of the crucifixion upon Golgotha. Do you think, precious ones, that it makes any difference who it is that is destroyed, seeing all are a part of God's love? Let us then consider how many of you today have the great desire in your hearts to see the world thrive in peace, and to see all sin and discord arrested and stopped forever. Precious ones, I am so aware of your dreams for peace and of your prayers and calls for peace, and I have often utilized your calls to render a great untold assistance to the planet, which has been efficacious in preventing many small wars from starting, and has also assisted mankind to put out the fire of those larger conflagrations which have caused such untold distress to entire continents and the world itself. Now, precious ones, in the holy name of peace, as you begin this year with some degree of apprehension and some degree of hope, let us hope that the hopes will far outweigh the apprehensions. Let us cast out the seeds of doubt and distress and replace them with a fervent hope for the future. Gaze backward for a moment upon the stream of history and realize how many individuals have suffered as the result of a tyrant's blow struck in the name of vanity. Long ago, that great wise master builder Solomon called to the attention of mankind of the existence of vanity. And the call went forth, all is vanity. Do you understand then, precious ones, that all is not vanity when it is struck in the name of peace? Are you aware, precious ones, of how for generations mankind have struck their coins in the mints of the world, bearing the image and superscription of the rulers of the world, and yet all have come and do come to naught? Do you realize then that the one great image that has not come to naught is the image of the Christ, which to the current day is embraced by more people upon this planet than ever before in history, although it is true that their embrace is lacking in the fervor that either they or we would see them manifest. For mankind seem, unfortunately, to be able to wax hot in their emotional concepts concerning many outer world manifestations of human culture, but seldom realize the great power of the spiritual culture that shall bring to them their release from all the dismal conditions that have existed for centuries. As I speak to you today, your beloved Morya has been cooking up, as it were, a tremendous condition. You may think this a little odd expression for me to make, but I am not permitted to reveal to you the fullness of that which he is engaged in. And therefore I thought, by a little expression quite unique in itself, that you would understand that the masters are also very interested in this planet and its people. You have an expression that too many cooks spoil the broth. Well, in this case, precious ones, you have many overseers. You have many fathers, many brothers of light, and they are all doing their part to produce the perfection for which mankind longs. Many wise men today intellectually wise and possessed with a very fine mind, are unable to cognize the solution to the world's problems of peace and war. They have examined the historical modes for centuries without being able to successfully improve the world to the point where human explosions would occur within the psyche of man. And I am sorry to say that mankind themselves have not yet learned how to govern internal turbulence so that they could keep the peace at all times. For there is nothing solved, precious ones, by releasing a tirade of energy upon anyone upon this planet. You only release a great burst of energy which robs you yourselves of your birthright, and if the other individual be open in the solar plexus to the receipt of your energy charged with a certain fierceness, it can also enter into their world and stir them up into a feeling of turbulence whereby they may suffer for many days as the result of a moment's outburst. Yet I would like all individuals connected with this activity and connected with your beloved Saint Germain to learn how to place the great ascended master disk over the solar plexus, the great sun disk with all of its radiant protection and power. I would like them to learn how to magnify the power of that disk of light so that they would not be so vulnerable to the onslaughts of others. Everyone has their balance of right action to perform. Mankind ought not to launch an onslaught upon one another, and those who have an onslaught launched upon them ought not to be affected by it if they can possibly avoid it, for peace must be kept at any price that mankind must pay to keep the peace. For when peace has gone and flown out the window, precious ones, what do you have left? Do you have a mind that can contact God? Do you have a mind that can hold the balance in your world? Do you have harmony in the body? Do you have all the conditions you desire? I think not. When peace has gone, everything has gone, and there is nothing left. And only when you come to a point where you once again, through the power of interior equilibrium, have found your balance, does the power of peace then begin to flow, and you start again to build those wondrous castles in the air, castles of hope, which may well materialize into the blessings you seek because you have kept the peace. Whensoever you shatter the peace or permit your peace to be shattered, it is a destructive action which cannot ever bring about the fruit of righteousness. But when you master yourselves, until as the Master Jesus, you could go to sleep and let others rock the boat for all they were worth, and you would know that the sea is God's sea, that the boat is God's boat, that your body is God's temple, that your mind is the dwelling place of God, that your soul is the soul of God, that the wind is His to command, that the wave obeys His voice. You could rest in that great cosmic tranquility that refuses to be affrighted and refuses to be disturbed, regardless of outer conditions. And then you could sleep, precious ones, through these conditions, or you could be awake through them and be unaffected by any of them, for you would be master of your world. And this is the condition you seek. This is the condition your souls require. That great shepherd of the sheep, your own beloved Lord Jesus, will speak to you this evening, and I think you will desire to hear from Him who is the Prince of Peace, the wondrous message which He has to give to you. For all of these dictations, precious ones, are given to you for the admonishment of your souls, that you may grow in overcoming perfection. It does not matter, precious ones, that you were imperfect yesterday, that you misbehaved yesterday. God was your Father before you knew of His existence in your outer consciousness. He was your Father on the inner planes, and you knew His smiling face and countenance there. God is your Father now. Whether you are good or whether you manifest the shadowed imperfection of the veil called evil, you are God's child, and you must return to His heart of peace ultimately. All you can do, precious ones, as you have been told, is to create a delaying action which will sustain the momentums of unhappiness of humankind in your consciousness. Why then do mankind feel it necessary to sustain it? I think it is a hypnotism by themselves, of themselves. And I think it is also the accepting of the mass effluvia of human creation. They have seen it all about them, and they think, because it is seemingly everywhere manifest, that they can do no less than to behave as others do, and to run riot with mankind the many. But, as an interesting point, let me assure you, precious ones, that the imperfect individuals upon this planet are far outnumbered by the perfect creations in heaven, which abide all around this planet. You know, gracious ones, before your society had externalized all the wonders and marvels which you currently enjoy, journeys were made across this land, and the great wheels pulled by beasts of the field, and carrying covered wagons carried the pioneer spirits of mankind across this vast land, seeking fame and fortune in the golden west, and yet ever drawing nearer to the golden east with the journey. For east is east and west is west, and as Gautama has said, now the twain do meet, all in one holy quest. So, precious ones, the interesting facts that I would like to allude to are the facts that mankind have enjoyed life in its basic simplicity in many past ages, and they are enjoying it today. A great deal more happiness occurs, precious ones, upon this planet than unhappiness, else mankind would cease to exist long ago by their own hand. For the suicide entity would have caused them to take their own life. Therefore, precious ones, do you see how that mankind have recognized their cosmic responsibility, and even under conditions of duress and strain, of ill health and struggles with the elements, they have borne all cheerily and carried on to accept their responsibility and make a great nation out of a few people. Gracious ones, the simple meals, the lamp light, the firesides of the old civilizations brought tremendous comfort because they did not have the hectic activity which the current age of man has. And yet today, if civilization will employ rightly all the manifold blessings of the electronic world, they can return to a pure state of enjoyment that will surpass the time when labor-saving devices you now have did not exist. I then say unto you that I would like this afternoon to open up new vistas of consciousness to you in the name of peace, that you may come to understand that the earth is a cosmic ark, that mankind are revolving here around the sun, fulfilling a destiny under the aegis of the Father, working out their individual destinies the culmination of lifetimes of service and search, that mankind are finding peace in the midst of turmoil, that mankind are coming to a state of consonance over a state of dissonance, that mankind are attaining cheeriness of spirit over the morbidity of past ages. Ladies and gentlemen, around this planet in insular space, there are what you have termed worlds without end, and very interesting examples of the creation are in manifestation there. We long for the time when you will beat your swords into pruning hooks and your spears into plowshares, when you will utilize the great cosmic power that you have in your hand, the power of electricity, the power of God's light, and the power of God's mind that actually moves the lever of your mind. We long for the day when the little children born of their mothers, currently by natural process, by natural law, will come forth having a greater hope than the youth do today into a more perfect world, where you will be able to step from your bedside in the morning and know that everywhere upon this planet the world has lived free from all accidents, floods, cataclysms, disturbances, sickness, pain, and death. When you will be able to realize that the divine science of Almighty God has shown the under-civilization how to follow the ascended master pattern and complete their destiny in one embodiment. When mankind are able to bring forth under the direction of God those wondrous vessels which shall utilize cosmic rays to move through the great insular reaches of space according to divine decree, whereby the removal of all barriers can be safely taken down and mankind can be shown all of the far reaches of space little by little, as much as their mind and being can take in, and find great happiness where peace everywhere abides in the cosmos, universe and world without end. How little mankind know. We were amused at the statement that was made here concerning mankind gazing out of a very small aperture as a slit in a barrel. And we thought amongst ourselves in the higher octaves of light that this was a bit of an overstatement. Now I call to your attention that it is a great travesty upon nature itself and upon nature's God that mankind have not long ago utilized the blessings they have and afforded themselves the power of peace in this generation and in past generations. 2,000 years ago, the great Master Jesus preached the message of peace. Your own beloved St. Francis came directing the birds of the air to fly and make the sign of the cross. The sky has been filled with the signs of the appearing of the Christ. The Magi of old could tell you today that the world has seen much, and they who have seen have not always spoken that which they have seen, or told that which they have known. For this generation would not have received it, and in many cases men have passed from the screen of life bearing state secrets of cosmic import. Precious ones, if you feel that the Elohim of peace is somewhat long-winded, bear in mind that you may need my wind before you find the utopia of God's perfection. Bear in mind that you may need the wind of the Holy Spirit before you shall attain the right standards of the great cosmic law. Bear in mind that Christ's victory is not won by those who are sluggards and slothful, but it is won by those who diligently keep the peace. And now I say to the blue flame angels, who have been waiting in abeyance, it is time for you to make your appearance. And I also call to the white fire beings that have followed beloved ascended Master El Morya here. And as he came dashing across this continent, some of the strands of his turban became unfastened. And some of the beings that came with him were a little bit amused as they saw it flapping in the wind. But El Morya was completely unperturbed, for he said, I must be about God's business and must complete the service that the Elohim of peace has asked for and that I have agreed to do. And therefore he is joyously beaming and smiling today as he sees the number of white fire beings that have volunteered to serve to form a tremendous amphitheater of light over the city of Washington. O lords of blue flame and blue flame angels, direct your swords of blue flame into the matrix of this city governing this nation. Let this nation under God be a nation of peacemakers. Let this people accept the peace of God and the peace of Christ into their souls, and let them also be ready for any eventuality to protect the holy cause of freedom if the hordes of shadow shall attempt to impose the powers of darkness upon the great bells of freedom and the power of those sacred documents such as the Magna Carta, the Constitution of the United States, and the power of the Liberty Bell itself at inner levels where there is no crack but only the golden tone that tolls over the land from on high, saying to all, God's peace is in the sky. When will ye have its tidings here and nigh? Angels of blue flame, release now your bolts of blue lightning for and on behalf of world peace. It is done. It is done. It is done. Ladies and gentlemen, in the name of millenniums of progress, and in the hope of a cosmic future so vast as to tear the mind of man from the present to a realm of such perfection that even your consciousness could not yet bear it, I say salutem. Hail, thou regenerate coming age, when peace shall make the hearts of men unafraid. Hail, thou power of peace that rules the hearts of men with a rod of iron. Hail, O Prince of Peace, whose dictums and love sway the nations and shall move them ultimately to their full perfectionment. Hail, you emissaries of peace, and in his name I say, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. I thank you, and I bid you good afternoon in memory of the sacred Angelus, when the world shall have put away its weapons and peace shall bow all heads in holy prayer. Again, adieu. Please be seated. legions of peace, I am come this day with the shining garment of God, the victory of life, the purifying elements of the sacred fire. I am come to bring to all the understanding of the countenance that shines like the sun. I am come to bring to all the understanding of their own face as the face of God. They must recognize, one and all upon this planet, that the patience of God ought not to be tried by mankind, neither should mankind tempt the Lord thy God. For the Lord thy God hath brought unto thee every grace and every good gift, and all in heaven will forever sing his praises and adoration for all that he is, the strength and the light of life. O precious ones, you do not realize how utterly important it is that you sense within yourselves the reality of your cosmic being, your spiritual inheritance, and the great faith which God has implanted within thee. The power of invincible light perfection and light radiance is of more value than all of the treasures of the world. For by the means of the sacred fire and the light of God, all substance could be formed by the builders of form and the tiny elementals, so that as the alchemists knew, and I refer to those who were true, it would be possible for mankind to actually summon the element gold itself from the very atmosphere and produce it without any question whatsoever. After all, blessed ones, do you realize that within the earth itself there are mighty veins of gold ore still undiscovered by mankind? Do you know, precious ones, that this gold that is within the earth as mighty veins is actually the condensed radiance of the sun itself, and that it has retained the power of the sun to vivify the earth body? Do you know, precious ones, that there is a trace of this precious mineral actually within your physical bodies? Do you understand, precious ones, how that the condensed power of light itself in minute form manifests to your physical forms and enables you to keep a balanced condition? Why do you think, precious ones, that the United States of America, which is indeed a sweetheart of St. Germain, has stored vast treasures of gold, such as are reposing now at Fort Knox? This gold is for the purpose of holding in this ascended master nation a spiritual radiance that can be useful in the transmuting of many conditions which mankind are not aware of, as well as bringing in a source of greater supply to this land, so that America can be the source of great strength to all nations of the world, as the great giver of good gifts to the family of nations, the great unifier, the great transmuter, and the great father friend to all. Mankind must understand that there is an inner action of the great law, acting and functioning through the metals and precious gems of the earth. They must understand that the breastplate worn by Aaron, the high priest, had actually not only physical symbology, but spiritual power of the ancient priesthood, which was locked within the physical object itself. Mankind do not understand the power today of that which they have termed in part talismanic magic. I think then that we ought to reveal just a little of this so that mankind will understand how very important it is that they understand that in the outer use of symbology there is a specific interaction of the great law which can be constructively used so as to bless mankind upon this planet and hold a focus for the angelic host. Do you know, blessed ones, that to retain upon your person an object of gold is most valuable if it be properly magnetized so as to draw the power of the sun close to your individual person? I do not say that men should covet gold. This must be without coveting. It must be placed there as a focus of spiritual adornment and then called forth by God's grace so that the great power of the radiance of the sun behind the sun will radiate into the golden substance and retain the charge of cosmic Christ love and the charge of cosmic Christ wisdom, which the great law would actually hold in the golden element. Do you see, precious ones, that a statement has been made that speech is silver, but silence is golden? Now then, when you come into the golden age, the word that goes forth from you will be the golden word. The golden word, which itself possesses the richness of cosmic Christ discrimination, whereby when you speak to your brother, it brings words of infinite comfort to him that will repose and nestle in his heart long after he has forgotten the fact that you met on this specific occasion. The date may be forgotten, but your precious words, golden words of love and light, as an anointing upon his heart and head, will bring him peace and comfort and inspiration. Do you know, precious ones, that mankind today so frequently speak the brutal word, and this brutal word is remembered and brings pain to the hearts of men over a long and prolonged period of time. The same as holds true for brutal thoughts which mankind unwittingly sometimes perchance permit themselves to express. Deny then the power of these, and let them not pass your lips, for truly though they be sharp barbs of wit, I say to you all, they are but silver, and they are moon substance, and they are emotional substance, and they bring you under the power of the moon mother, and they bring you under the power of that which pulls you down as to false gods and idols, as Ashtaroth, and as those who worshipped the cult of the Minotaur. I call to your attention then that mankind must understand the meaning of the golden ball thrown before Atlanta. They must understand how to follow the golden thread. They must understand how to emerge from the labyrinth of consciousness with all of the ghastly and grisly conditions which mankind have placed there by their thoughtlessness and brutality. They must recognize that all the former conditions must be forgotten, and they must hold to the virgin consciousness of pure gold, which is golden in the eyes of God. Mankind have so frequently made of gold a golden calf, which they worship and dance around to manifest the bestiality of their nature. For when the golden calf comes full-blown into manifestation, you have then created the money beast, which mankind today worship rather than worship the Most High God. I wonder how many of you are aware of the fact that the money beast is a tangible creation which actually abides in the atmosphere over the city of New York and causes much manipulation and fluctuation on the stock market there, which causes many times grief and panic to mankind. For example, in the great crash that occurred back in the 1930s, you understand how very definitely mankind did suffer as a result of the manipulations of the stock market. The savings of entire families and individuals were wiped out in an instant, and the suicide entity had a field day to bring about destruction to mankind. Do you see the difference then to the condition whereby the laws of God are obeyed? You will recall in the vision of Moses descending from the heights of the mountain, how that he came and found the people worshiping the golden calf, and he brake the tablets of God's law, for his heart did burn within him with grief to see civilization so completely counter to decency and order before God. Now I am an archangel, and I am charged also with the feeling of God identification. I realize how very important it is to you, blessed ones, to earn a living and to have sufficiently of this world's goods to keep yourselves together, as some of you have said, to hold body and soul together. But I tell you that you will never find, through dependence on the outer, the satisfactions which your soul requires. You must recognize that the talismanic magic of God that has actually caused to be created in various parts of the earth tremendous spiritual foci is an active principle which mankind can tune in with if they will. But in order to do so, there is a great requirement of the law, and that requirement is good character, is a manifestation of kindness to their brother and of kindness to their neighbor. It is a manifestation of golden understanding, for we are now entered upon the golden age, and men must understand how that by spiritual alchemy they transmute the old and hardened bitter opinions of consciousness and enter into a state of freedom such as is epitomized by the ascended host and the angelic host. Ladies and gentlemen, would you be free to have the virgin consciousness of Mary? Would you be free to hold the Christ concept in the matrix of your being? Then accept the understanding of golden speech and the golden rule. For the golden rule so clearly states, as it is written in heaven, do unto others as you would they do unto you. I thank you and bid you goodbye for this day. God be with you. Hail, O Lady Champion! The knight-errants from Darjeeling salute you with a thrust for a cosmic purpose and on behalf of the light. Those stalwart souls who have this day given of their holy energies in this place without regret shall immortally live to rejoice in their offering. For when mankind do give to God of the strands of immortal substance which he has first given to them, it is a magnanimity of spirit which causes the souls of the faithful to rejoice. And therefore I would tell you this night that as our Holy Mother spake unto you, your beloved messenger, through whom I am speaking, and mine, was quite amused to behold some of the tiny elves that were prancing here on the white poinsettias, and were almost turning themselves topsy-turvy with joy at the voice and prognostications of the Holy Mother for and on their behalf. I think ultimately some of them look forward to the possibility of their feeling the great flame of pulsating freedom that will cause them to bring to mankind in great dignity all of the beauteous works of which they are capable, but which they have not been able to fashion because of the rigidity of men's minds and the unfortunate stone coffins into which mankind have lowered them by reason of their dire thoughts and forebodings. Let us then decree that we may release them from these conditions of calcination, and withal, let us release mankind also, that the great brotherhood of angels and of men and of elementals may become an immortal one, and that all may graduate in the state of becoming, as is our hope, so that the planet be embellished round about with the triune power of divine love, the sacred seven being composed of the four square of the elementals, and also mankind, the angels, and the ascended master. The light bearers from Darjeeling salute you. And our eyes are somewhat twinkling this year, for we perceive that some of our admonishments have been heeded, and we look for the wise to fashion for themselves some new sense of direction that shall keep them from the old briary pathways. And perhaps when next year come again, we shall see how many our Lord Merlin shall have gathered into the freedom fighters. A vagabond and nondescript army we hope you will not form, but one that is capable of accomplishment, not only for the little segment of time in which you live, but also for the vast eternal cycles, when your spirit, flashing forth free from physical confines, shall with our own bend the wills of men as the infinite archer commands, and so let fly the arrow upon the screen of the infinite. I thank you. Perhaps you enjoy my twinkle more than my frown. Good evening.
Number 4. Let us rise. so they see the good works of the Father of love, and the Master's walk will the soul gain.
Master Morya, our hearts are overflowing with love for the light and the truth
That you bring,
teach us
us to live in the presence of all, and through us the angels may sing.
let us all
Understand
and never
expand the knowledge of God's sacred fire, that the earth may be raised to her place in the sun, in fulfillment of God's great desire.
Master Morya, we bless thee for being the one to assist our beloved
Saint Germain, to expand his great work as before thou hast done, and to raise us again and again.
Thou art always undone,
Thou great cosmic Lord, now step through the veil to our side, that we all may be bathed in the light from thy heart, dedicated as guardians of the light. You know, dear hearts, it's a very interesting little point. I'm going to ask our beloved friends who will be visiting Holy Tree House tonight to bring in those two little elves, because the Master assures me that we will find them plasticized. And you won't feel that you're plastered when you see them. Will you bring in the elves? You try to remember tomorrow? You know, they just arrived. I think you'll get quite a charge out of it. I'd like to see them on the flowers here tomorrow as they were tonight, so you could see them too. Oh, that's our state secret. That's what I'm wondering. Beloved Master Morya was, of course, not intended to address you tonight. It was not scheduled. This was an unscheduled appearance. He apparently felt moved and constrained to put in an appearance here. And of course, he's always welcome, as he knows. His remarks were short, but I thought very sweet. You know, Arthur, for he, of course, was King Arthur of the Knights of the Round Table, has a very gentle side, along with his very fierce side. And the gentle side of Arthur is reflected in his poetry as Thomas Moore, and also in his exemplary life as St. Thomas More. We are very grateful for the love that you have sent to the ascended host tonight, for the harmony that has pervaded our sessions, and we look forward with happiness to the wondrous triune blessing of the morrow, a dictation from an Archangel, an Elohim, and our great Master Jesus. Can we tonight, in spiritual, joyous apprehension, send forth our soul to God, to the celestial realms, and tell the Father how much we love him for making possible that we could be together in heavenly places in Christ, in the city of Washington, the alabaster city of light, in memory of the great transcendent love of the ascended master nation that America is, in memory of the love that America is sending to all the world,
to our precious neighbors in Canada to the north, the land of South America, China, Japan, Russia to the east, Far East, the islands of the sea, Suva, and to our beloved Europe, the Balkans, the polar caps, and all the seas and the atmosphere above. Let us constitute ourselves a cell in the body of God, for in reality we are. And let us not sell ourselves short by telling ourselves that we do not count. This would be to desecrate the handiwork of God. Maybe some of your friends who are not illumined think you don't count. But please don't let yourself tell yourself, or let anyone else tell you that you do not count. You are the handiwork of God. And one day, we're going to punch holes in that black cloth. It looks like an ink black sky. And the light that is in you will burst forth. And they'll say a new star appears in the firmament, because you'll be up there. Twinkle, twinkle. Thank you very much. Will you please be seated? Peace and greetings unto all in this fraternity, and to all men everywhere. Noblesse oblige. The grace and courtesy of symmetrical form, released through good manners and good behavior to one another, is exemplary, and we commend it to all this new year as in years past. The courtesy derived from the ancient courts, derived first from the great source consciousness of law and of order and of purity, is still in vogue in the best of circles, and I think that our circles are the best, and therefore I continue to advocate as an expediency that men strive for grace in manners and perfectionment of being. I am not always disposed to commend all formality as the complete epitome of courtesy. I recommend each act in its proper place. And I think that when men understand how the law functions, they will understand also the great necessity of causing individuals to relax and be at peace in the midst of a world filled with inner tensions and dissatisfactions. Now, as you contemplate the entering into the New Year cycle and the great release of the cosmic light that shall come forth this year, I hope that you will realize that as the crest of a wave, you have the responsibility in some cases to function as a chip, not a chip upon the shoulder as much as a chip upon the cosmic wave. And there are other times when I wish you to function not as a chip, but as a ship with a rudder, whereby you will take the hand and helm in your own strong right arm and follow the proscribed path of reason and destiny, whereby the pole star of your existence will chart a course across the waters of delusion that cause mankind to part asunder the veil between reality and unreality, and will recognize the need to hold sanity and balance in the face of all untoward outer conditions. I come to you then this day in memory of the great cosmic flame of freedom, which in blazing from our retreat in Transylvania holds yet the focus of Prince Rakazi. I call to your attention also the wondrous destiny of the spiritual law as set into motion by the hand of the House Prince of Rakazi, the great divine director, my mentor and friend of old. And I recommend to you all attunement with the vast, unfettered domain of his consciousness, which is able to illumine you as it did me concerning the meaning of true freedom. For mankind have not always understood the meaning of freedom, although many have pondered it. I say then that simple words often need to be thought about a great deal more than just in a simple manner. They need to be examined in the light of many aspects and modes of being, so that mankind find that the life which they lead is not merely called freedom in the outer sense of the word, while inward bondage continues to tether the soul to many unreasoning demands. I say to all then that the wonders of constitutional government are exceeded by man's inward constitution, from which the consent of the governed come to understand the meaning of law and order. I hope that you understand there are times when I choose to invert the English language for a purpose, in order that I might cause a resounding in the consciousness of mankind, so that even my critics will come to understand that it is necessary to examine the English language anew and to find the freshness of the gentle mercies of heaven that have dropped down for countless ages upon the earth beneath, not only to twice bless it and to thrice bless it, but to bless it a multitude of times since the first drop. I call your attention then this day and this age is one of great light, and yet shadowed substance remains to be transmuted, and mankind deserve to have their energies of recalcitrance transmuted so that they can manifest the mighty purple cloak of freedom and wear it with divine dignity. Mankind must understand that the word freedom is more than a name. It is more than an outer embellishment. It carries within it the potential life energies of countless avatars of the past who have given their lives in the holy cause of freedom. They have taken both material swords and spiritual swords and have perished, as it were, or so it seems, in the service of the light in both ways. For I tell you, there are many martyrs in a physical sense for and on behalf of the cause of freedom, but there are also many spiritual martyrs who have passed from the screen of the life because they did not understand the modes of protecting themselves against the onslaughts of the brothers of the shadow, who in their zeal to protect themselves did not take into account the great power of the law of God, which always returns full circle to the feet of the one sending out arrows of pestilence, the very pestilence which they send out. I call then to the attention of all of you to the great potential good which lies within your hand as a gift from God this year. You are not bereft of reason. You are not bereft of grace. You are not bereft of many things, for you already possess a great deal of the law of heaven. And after all, precious ones, to possess the law is 9 points of it in one sense of the word, and the 10th point is the initiatic experience whereby you employ the law in the service of the light. But how can you employ that which you do not first possess? However, some men are so possessed by the law that they do not actually choose to exercise the law in their own worlds, but are satisfied with the ability to repeat its aphorisms while they continue to deny it in effect in their actions and conduct. Now I think then that the time has come when men of this ilk must be milked out, as it were, from the midst of the children of light, and the time of separation is nigh at hand. For it is necessary that mankind shall see clearly how the power of good example will inspire men to continue to pursue the pathway to freedom, whereas the power of bad example is ever a nondescript power, which, although it be carried to the 9th power in those who behold it, does not manifest the power of the 10th, which is initiation. And therefore individuals continue to go the soporific round of experiences, many of them and most of them unpleasant, and have but a little pleasure and a little milk of human kindness, whereas they might drink at the great cosmic fount if they would forsake their outer identity and egos and merge their being with the great cosmic causes. I say to you then that the time has almost come when the children of the light ought to appeal to the children of darkness and say to them, come and join our number, for we are happier than you are in the great flame of freedom. You have but the little nanny of your own nursemaid of cosmic ego in a very finite way to nourish, whereas we have the great cosmic mother who nourishes us, and we receive the milk of her great kindness, whereas you but receive the little temporary pleasures which momentarily cause you to expand the domain of your own ego in a very senseless blasting of others, whereas while you may wither some for a while, you will ultimately only cause yourselves to perish and be gathered as chaff before the wind of the Lord's spiritual endeavors. You cannot stand forever in your little corners of the universe and make faces at the Most High, for the faces which you make are very terrible indeed to behold from the inner level, and a far cry from the beautiful spiritual faces which your holy Christ self makes in all of its manifestations of perfection. I say then today, with some sense of humor and some sense of solemnity, that most of you are familiar with the Shakespearean idea embodied in the two faces, the one with the mouth turned down at the corners and the other with the mouth turned up. I much prefer the latter to the former, And I think that a little mirth, as beloved El Morya has said, as a twinkle of mirth is needed on earth, is far more to be desired than the somberness which turns its mouth down upon mankind and also upon itself. And one day these individuals will be turned inside out, and they may not like the lining. You see, precious ones, you have heard it said that every cloud has a silver lining. Well, as long as mankind manifests a consciousness of a darkened cloud, it does not matter too much if they think they have a silver lining unless they really do. You see, precious ones, all is not gold that glitters. And while mankind may desire to shine in this world, unless the light that is in them is the light of God that never fails, it is actually only a paltry tinsel, which at best will serve as an outer adornment, while the truth will be revealed when it is known that inwardly they have been ravening wolves all the time, devouring the lambs of God and attempting to do so, but actually having little nourishment from their labors. I think then that the time has come when spiritual men and women across the planet must ignore them and leave them to their own devices. Then perhaps they will be eaten up, as it were, of their own devices and find out that they themselves are not too appetizing. Then they may turn, after all, and come to recognize that the Spirit of the body of God, the Holy Eucharist, is worthy alone to be partaken of. And they will desire to eat and drink the Lord's flesh and be a manifestation of the Lord's presence. I remember long ago when I walked through the streets of Paris on a healing mission, how that regardless of the fact that each child that I touched and healed of a disease similar to poliomyelitis in this day and age, who recovered almost instantly from my touch, was in many cases jerked away by the mother who made the sign of the cross and said, "Diablo." I call to your attention then that mankind have not always recognized the healing hand of God, and they have often cast aspersions upon the light itself. While they themselves have fancied themselves to be benign, they have actually turned to others who are embodied upon the planet, who were more virtuous than they, and called them all manners of names, thinking they did God service. But the time has come when the mask of imperfection ought to be removed, and men ought to see clearly that the hand of God is available to free men from superstition. Hence I come this day in the name of the holy flame of freedom to ask you this year to make special appeals to the great karmic board for and on behalf of removing the causes of superstition in the world. Do you know, precious ones, that the world is so full of superstition today that if the energy which mankind actually congeal in the matrices of superstition could be released, I think that it would be enough to actually strike a tremendous blow at the forces of juvenile delinquency in the world today. And this is a most necessary act, for I think that unless mankind shall do something about it, it may indeed become such a blight in all areas of the world that the citizenry will be almost enraged to the point of revolt against society itself for permitting this horrible blight to continue to expand in the sea of humanity. Yet the causes and cores of this, while not actually rooted alone in the Hollywood releases of motion pictures and other forms of entertainment which have dramatized the sinister and the negative, is in part chargeable directly to mankind's continual permission which they have granted to their offspring to view these negative dramas and dioramas pictorially acted out before the screen of their mind and absorbed into their consciousness as a very old momentum of human discord which has not provided peace to any era of time in the past and never will. When the gamut of human emotion is run wild and set loose upon a society so that the youth of the world, vested with the hope of future ages, become victims of the imperfections of the past, then I ask you, what shadow do those coming events cast before the consciousness of mankind? Not a very pretty picture, I am sure. and yet one which you, precious ones, embodied here, must either cure or endure, as beloved Morya has said. Would it not then be an act of grace if in this future year you should dedicate yourselves to channeling the energies that are congealed in the matrices of superstition over the world, and seeing that that energy that is released is then transmuted by the power of light and given to the ascended host to use in the fight against juvenile delinquency and all forms of depravity practiced by the youth of the world? Would it not be a glorious blow for the Lord to break the pictures of the old matrix and let the light of God imprisoned in the center thereof be released as a service to cause the light to expand on the battlefield of the world for the cause of freedom? Would it not be wonderful to see the forces of tyranny thus go down in a greater degree before the forces of light? A blow then for Gideon and the Lord. A blow then for St. Germain. Let it be struck now by the keepers of the flame. Let mankind arise and set others free, that they may know the power to love and be all that is Christ's victory. Ladies and gentlemen, I toss to you the ball upon the field of life, that you who love to play the game thereof may recognize that you can run with it and pass yourselves or it through the great goal of life, or else find that mankind are behind the 8-ball, as it were, and pay the goaler the price, which will not, of course, be a blow for life, but will further enhance the power of strife which already o'erburdens the world. I think then that victory's flag ought instead to be unfurled, so that we may see the vicissitudes go down and freedom rise, that tyrants' eyes may be dimmed, and they may be affrighted by the power of sin they have released upon the world with all its din and confusion, until in place of all that misuses the power of life, we shall see the light as victory's candle glow to expand through all the darkened minds below, and fear and tyranny go down, and love and beauty, perfection manifest round the town, so narrow now enclosed by communications bands that bring the voice of man from land to land, and carry the flame of freedom also there when life is used to breathe a holy prayer. Release a child from dungeons dark and bold, and let his eyes pursue the glow of freedom's gold, and then the world in freedom's bonds shall stand, and all that is wonder shall fill the land with power, and power's glow supreme, heaven's dream fulfilled in all, an answer to a call. The boldness of the victory shall seem to be reality until a new birth comes to all that shows expansion's dream is not a pall, but is the light expanding bright from freedom's torch on high, that brings to all the sense aright, that knows to do and not to die, is mortification of the sense, but not of that for perfection meant. For I am here as above, and below, I say, there is great love. Within your hearts its fervor glows. You know it's there. Its love o'erthrows the tyrant's chain and bondage band, and brings God freedom to our land. I am lovingly yours, the Knight Commander of the Keepers of the Flame. The scroll is written in God's name, and you are tossed. The lighted taper here May you bear it without fear and do the work that God requires to hold the light that e'er aspires and directs God freedom's call. A thirsting civilization feels its call and knows that I am very near. The coming of the age is here, and you, surrounded by God's flame, will victors be in heaven's name. I thank you